Sailor's warning. You can tell the difference between a cop and the Maury to the thickest size of the cop, cried out Gorch in his high yet gravelly sounding voice. The patrons of the tavern certainly weren't stoked about hearing him ramble about fish for the past hour, but they've learned to tune him out. This happens every day, and they know exactly what part is next. And there's the white whale of my collection. Not actually a whale or white, but it's the king of the blue. Tail stays longer than any worm or worm. Gorge would regale, sighing. This kept going on. Eventually, Gorge would take out a photo album to show people all the pictures of him with the fish he had. By midnight, when the tavern closed, Gorge was kicked out. That's fine. The sky was a beautiful crimson color. Red skies at night, sailor's delight, they say. Gorge would march down the street, proudly flaunting himself. Even though goblins are looked down upon, some people can find curiosity in a goblin who learned both fluid common and has a stable income. Most goblins just live in caves, thrilling for the hunt of the day. Not Gorch Keychester. From his earliest days, he never wanted to be a hunter. He wanted to be a painter. Took a lot of convincing, but his parents eventually let him. Gorch would think of what to paint, choosing nature around him, till one day he began painting fish. The detail of the scales and the bright colors were so fun to illustrate, so he began painting more and more. One day he settled on a magnum opus. He would paint a mural on the side of the family cave of an ocean full of fish. How would he get so many unique fish? He would begin catching them himself to get plentiful designs. He splurged on a tackle box and fishing rod, then headed out to the nearest town. Naturally, he wasn't very welcome there, but no matter. He would sit down on the dock and cast his line. Sometimes he would catch a fish, then paint it on a canvas to copy at home. At the end of the day, he went back to the cave to begin painting on the wall. It looked beautiful. Even his brothers and sisters sat down to watch him. Day after day, he went to the docks, caught fish, painted them. He started to get bored of painting when it was all he did, but fishing was different. He began to love it. The fish he caught began to sell instead of releasing. And with the money, he bought better equipment and more bait. And one day, he announced to his family that he would leave to travel the world, trawling wherever he went. There were some tears shed, but they say their final goodbyes as Gorch went to the dock where his new boat was waiting. It was a rather good fishing boat with a roofed cabin on it in case he wants to sleep on his journey. After pushing it off the dock, he never stayed in one place long again. Shortly after laying the night in Dockside City, Gorge met a crew of people. Peculiar group at that. A crow who had an odd fixation on taxidermy, a centaur who seemed weirdly eager to throw himself out a window, a crocodile. Though they seemed weird, they were his friends. One fine day, they got a gold music box in the postage. It was a call from people called the Golden Vault. Whoever that was. They needed to steal artifacts from people that the Golden Vault wanted. Simple enough. A few adventures later, it was good as gold. Cockatrice here, skeletal worm there, a white somewhere along the road. There was a spooky mausoleum that even Gorge found to saddle in. He knew exactly what to do. He slapped it on a centaur buddy, and they rode off into the distance. He hasn't heard a lot from them since. Back in the prison, Gorge is marching back down to the dock where his old reliable Groglor is residing. Suddenly, a stranger stops him. Hey, Goblin, want to take a look at my trinkets? They say in a hushed tone. Trinkets are the one thing that could possibly rival Gorge's love for fishing. So he was over in the blink of an eye, checking out the trinkets and baubles this man had. They talked over them for a while, all of them having magical properties. Then Gorge's eyes landed on one thing in particular. What about that lure? What's magic about this? He picked up a fishing lure depicting a serpent. It's not a magical item, it's a normal. And then before he could even finish, Gorge brushed off, leaving a few gold where the lure was. Gorge headed back to his fishing boat, dubbed Groglor. Groglor was the name of his centaur friend he loved dearly, but after his unfortunate passing, Gorge wanted to immortalize him by naming his boat after Groglor and flying a flag of a centaur on the mast. It's also bad luck to depart without an unnamed vessel. In the morning, he knew it was time. He got his rod, his line, and attached his new lure to the line. Under the red light of the morning sky, he stood ready. With a circle, he cast his line. Flew far, but after a few minutes, he wasn't getting any bites. He was about to call it quits, but that's when he got a tug. A hefty one at that. It almost pulled him overboard, but he stood his ground. Gorch waited for the catch to give away, but Gorch waited for the catch to give way a bit. But when he grabbed the rope coil, tied it to his feet, the struggle went on for a few more minutes. To the final tug, the beast won. Groglor was capsized, and Gorch pulled under the water. Deeper and deeper he went, seeing fish and eels and squids galore. But the pressure all became tighter and tighter. Gorch felt he was about to be popped like a balloon. Till there was no more pressure. What felt like his usual innate dark vision looked like colors on a canvas. Gorch went to gasp at this change, but instead of taking in water, bubbles escaped from the side of his neck. He went to feel the newly found gills on his neck. Gorch looked around and eventually saw the beast that had capsized him underneath. Larger than any worm, prismatic scales, more eyes than Gorch could count. An angler's light, the king of the blue. Gorch stared at the king, and the king stared back. Not one of them dare make a move. Then Gorch felt something new. It wasn't a telepathic connection. Hell, if he didn't know better, he'd say he's known all his life. That the king of the blue saw promise in him. A mere angler who managed to trawl the king holds untapped power. Gorch felt a wellspring of magic surging in him, powers over the sea and its creatures he never thought possible. Then, the king's light goes out. Gorch woke back up on the Groglor, seemingly never having overturned at all. He felt his neck, and there were still gills. He could feel them breathing shallowly. Gorch looked to his fishing rod, seeing that serpent lore he'd bought is now depicting the king of the blue, twinkling in the light. Gorch felt tired, so he sat down, tried to focus on this new power. In a wave, water began to push his boat to shore at his beck and call. He would grab his photo album, flipping through the pages. Man, shame I never got a... As he trails off, seeing the page with the priorly empty spot labeled King of the Blue. It was now 2 whole pages with a large illustration of the king in the center. Around it is constantly shifting letters. When Gorch tries to read them, they form words. Gorch could never read, but he could sense this page's intentions. It was the power of the king communicating with him, and with the king's power, he can understand the writing. Go, child of green, spread the word and grow strong. Your king wills it so, the page reads. Gorch lets out a smile and a chuckle at the page. When back at land, Gorch docks the Groglor, but doesn't leave the dock. He wants to figure out his powers. Naturally, the first thing that comes to mind is offense. Seeing as his photo album has magical properties, he skims through the album. This time he caught a swordfish off the coast of Waterdeep catches his eye. Gorch dislodges the photo from a slot and looks at it. Almost as if sensing his intentions, the photo dissolves into water that is absorbed into Gorch's hand. Getting creative, he would unsheath his Bowie knife and thrust it forward at a barrel nearby. The energy of the king flows through his arm into the knife, and as it is thrust forward around the knife, the body, head, and sword of a swordfish are formed, piercing right through the barrel. Then the swordfish dissipates, and the swordfish photo reappears in the album. Gorch laughs at this power, as he has always been, for lack of an in-universe term, a martial class. Gorch next finds another photo, one he took of a frenzy of fish after he threw chum into the water. Once again, the photo dissolves in his hands, but doesn't go into his body. Instead, it reforms into a larger shape, then blinks into a bucket full of chum. Gorch catches this bucket, then grins with all his might. Gorch flings the chum into the water in front of him. Where it lands, a whirlpool forms, and dozens of fish leap out, devouring the chum. It would certainly harm anyone caught in it. Gorge would stand up, making his way off the dock, testing some other photos from his book. Gorge could summon a jellyfish to shock his opponents, or a turtle to carry his things. Gorge made his way back to the tavern that loved to loathe him and sat at the bar. "There's Goblin Boy," the bartender called out. "What kept you so long?" "Oh, nothing," Gorge responded. "I was just fishing," while still flipping through his photo book. Gorge, after reminiscing about his catch, ordered a single drink and got hammered off it. He passed out in the bar, and when he woke up, saw a yelling, gruff accent. "Oi, anyone know someone who got a sea monster? Heard of him. Sounds strong." He must be talking about Gorge. Gorge stood up, a bit tipsy, holding his hand up. It was me. Oh my, Gorge, do you have anything for a hangover?" "You caught the sea monster? Well, I suppose looks aren't everything. Want to join a team of only the strongest?" John said, putting his hand down on Gorge's shoulder. Gorge looked up at John, his eyes glimmering. "Yes, I do!" With that, John pulled Gorge into a portal, leaving him back to the home base.